Hare Kṛṣna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam today. Today we will be covering Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 16, The Lord's Opulence. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari. Yashodanandana Vrajanuranjana.
Yashodanandana
Vrajanuranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Please join us in the Mangalacharan prayers. Together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirye Shavatam Swakatha Kṛṣṇa Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantasto He Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 16, the Lord's Opulence. Śrī Uddhava Vacha.
Śrī Uddhava Vacha.
Tvam Brahma Paramam Sakshat.
Tvam Brahma Paramam Sakshat.
Anadyanantam Apavratam.
Anadyantam Apavratam.
Sarveshamapi Bhavanam.
Sarveshamapi Bhavanam.
Transthityapyayodbhavaha.
Transthityapyayodbhava.
Please.
Śrī Uddhava Vacha.
Śrī Uddhava Vacha.
Tvam Brahma Paramam Sakshat.
Tvam Brahma Paramam Sakshat.
Anadyantam Apavratam.
Anadyantam Apavratam.
Sarveshamapi Bhavanam.
Sarveshamapi Bhavanam.
Transthityapyayodbhava.
Transthityapyayodbhavaha. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Śrī Uddhava said, My dear Lord, you are beginningless and endless, the Absolute Truth Himself, unlimited by anything else. You are the protector and life giver, the destruction and creation of all things that exist. Purport: Brahman is the greatest of all and the cause of everything. Uddhava here addresses the Lord as the Paramam or Supreme Brahma because of his feature as Bhagwan. The Lord is the highest feature of the Absolute Truth and the shelter of unlimited spiritual opulences. Unlike those of ordinary living entities, the Lord's opulences cannot be restricted by time, and thus the Lord is Anadya Antam, without beginning or end, and Apavratam, unhindered by any superior or equal potency. The opulence of the material world is also resting within the Lord, who alone can protect, maintain, create and destroy the material world. In this chapter, Śrī Uddhava inquires from the Lord about his spiritual and material opulences in order to refine his appreciation of the Lord's position as the Absolute Truth. Even Lord Vishnu, the ultimate creator of the material world, is an expansion of Lord Kṛṣṇa, and thus Śrī Uddhava wishes to fully appreciate the unique status of his personal friend. Hare Krishna. Please join us in seeking blessing of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yat kripa tadaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. This chapter has an equivalent chapter in Bhagavad Gita, right? The opulence of the absolute. So again, where similar description is given, but there is amazing secrets hidden in these two chapters, in Bhagavad Gita as well as in Srimad Bhagavatam, where there is very many similarities. There is also some major teachings that are hidden in these chapters. So focusing on this purport, where Śrī Uddhava, who is a pure devotee of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, is a disciple of Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, his cousin and advisor to Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and he's his cousin as well. And on top of that, he is an eternal associate because he is in a pure devotee form. Lord Kṛṣṇa is accepting him. So he becomes an eternal associate in this pastime onwards, where he is calling Lord Kṛṣṇa Param Brahma. And there are many similar verses that come to mind when we are reading this verse. Many amazing verses, they come to mind. So we'll be looking at some of those as well. An important aspect is that what are the secrets that are so sweet, so mellow, and which is actually in the very last verse Lord Kṛṣṇa covers. And this is a blessing. So let's quickly cover the blessing, and there is also a warning in this chapter. And then we'll dive into the secret matters, the sweet, loving pastimes as how a devotee can attain the supreme perfection of this life by loving devotion and using the intelligence to please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, to constantly seek his shelter. So the blessing given in this chapter is that by surrendering to Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, by taking his shelter, one should control. What are the factors that one should try to control? Does one want to control others? Or does one want to control people who are, minors, or people who are under his supervision? No.
Consciousness, yes.
In material consciousness, yes. I hear a response, yes. But a devotee, instead of proving, is always seeking to improve. Instead of proving how great a devotee is always seeking himself in this humble attitude with tolerance, seeking to improve one's existence. Right? So one should try to control what? The speech, mind and life fears. And we talked about that there are three ways actions can be performed. Right? Mind, body and words. So our actions will be purified automatically when we seek to please the Supreme Lord, Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and engage our mind in constantly meditating about him. Engage our body, the senses, the knowledge acquiring senses as well as the working senses in pleasing him, in carrying out devotional service, and also our words to glorify his name, form, activities, pastimes, and chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then through loving devotional intelligence, one will completely fulfill the mission of this life. And what's the mission of human life that we have received by the causeless mercy of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa is to get the love of Godhead, to be able to attain that love of Godhead. And we just, celebrated Janmashtami. Following Janmashtami, we celebrated Nandotsav. And on Nandotsav, we also celebrated Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. So again, this is an amazing time whereby engaging in devotional service and in the association of devotees. When we read scriptures, when we chant the holy name, when we dance on the chanting and kirtans are being performed all over the place, all over the world, it purifies
us as well as everyone who is able to hear Lord's glories, name, form, activities, pastimes. And so we can constantly immerse in thinking about Him. And from Bhakti Yoga, chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, what is the topmost, step? Mayyeva manadhatsva, may buddhim niveshaya. So always remembering our mind constantly absorbed in the remembrance of Lord Shri Krishna, His name, form, activities, pastimes. And completely engaging our intelligence, this loving, devotional intelligence, in pleasing Him constantly. So again, Srila Prabhupada said that one should be very intelligent to be able to discriminate what is right and what is wrong. So again, now that we are understanding what is right, then what is the warning in this chapter? We would like to know. And here it is described a transcendentalist. Now transcendentalist is one who can transcend the three modes of material nature, who can understand the absolute truth, who does not completely control his words and mind by superior intelligence. So again, Bhagavad Gita we learn, above the senses is mind, above the mind is intelligence, and above intelligence is the soul. So intelligence is above mind, and if one fails to control the mind and the senses by using his intelligence, and this is in the case of a transcendentalist who knows what is absolute truth, does not control by superior intelligence his mind and words and senses, and in that case, what is the harm that has been described? That one's spiritual vows, right, austerities and charities, all sacrifices, austerities and charities, they just flow away just like water flows away, right, out of an unbaked clay pot. So what is an unbaked clay pot? What is the significance? So from clay, we can make various kind of utensils. So if a pot is made out of clay, but it has not been baked, right? Then if you try to put water in it, the water seeps through the pores. That is the significance of baking the pot. So similarly, by engaging in devotional service, by constantly being, remembering about Lord Shri Krishna, constantly thinking, engaging our mind in remembering the sweet pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, engaging our senses in carrying out devotional services, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, the 9 process of devotional service we engage in, and also engaging our words, our speech in glorifying Lord Shri Krishna, His name, form, activities, pastimes, devotees and associates. When we do that, then we get purified, and that is like the baking, that our process, that's our purification. So just like a pot is baked, right, in an oven, so in the fire oven it is baked. So similarly, by engaging in devotional service, we are purifying, and we are creating this nice immunity to the material consciousness and invoking our Krishna consciousness. So it's not that devotion is something that somebody gives it to you. Yes, fanning the spark does happen at initiation, but actually it's already in our heart. Living entities, eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. Jivera Sarupoya Krishnera Nitya Das. So again, we are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna, but because of material consciousness, having received this material body, conditioned body, influenced by the 3 modes of material nature. So what are the 3 modes of material nature? Mode of goodness, Sattva Guna, mode of passion, Rajaguna, mode of ignorance, Tamaguna. We are thinking that this material world is filled with sense objects. So that is material consciousness, that we are thinking it's separate from Lord Shri Krishna. While in this chapter it's very nicely described that it's an expansion of Lord's potencies. So Lord is all potent and He has unlimited potencies. And so when we hear about His opulence, then we are seeing the various potencies as how He pervades in all the worlds, in the material as well as spiritual worlds. And we should be able to relate everything in relationship with Him, right? We should be able to look at everything, how it relates with Lord Shri Krishna. And then we will be able to understand, everything in right perspective. And what are the three references to be able to understand this? Sadhu, Guru and Shastra. Devotee association, Sadhu, Guru, our spiritual master we take shelter from, and Shastra, the bona fide scriptures. So again, there are many types of scriptures. Srila Prabhupada said that even materialists, they write books after books because they want to say something, and sometimes they get credit for doing that. Yet at the same time, the real benefit is when you glorify Lord Shri Krishna. Even Vyasadeva, Shri Krishna Vyasadeva, when he was, when he had written the Vedas and he had divided the Vedas, at that time also, and after writing, Puranas and so forth, he was still not satisfied. Why was he not satisfied? Somebody could ask. Someone who knew Vedas, who could write the Vedas for the future generations to learn from, he was not fully satisfied. Why? Because Devashinada appeared and revealed it to him. So sometimes we need higher power to reveal it to us. What is it that we are missing? Why are we morose? Why are we feeling that there is so much pain in this world, there is so much anxiety in this world? Why is the pandemic happening? And understand the nature of this world. At that time, Devashinada appeared, and he is a Devashi. So he is Rishis among the Devas. So he is a saintly demigod, he is referred to as many times. And he is a great devotee of Lord Shri Krishna. So he appears at the ashram of Shri Krishna Devapanya Vyasadeva and reveals to him that you have not glorified Lord Shri Krishna. And at that time, Srila Vyasadeva, he understands the deficiency in his glorification, because Vedas have such a fruitive language that can bewilder conditioned soul. And they may forget that it is meant to address various kind of paths for people at various stages, right? Yet at the same time, to be able to go to supreme abode, to be able to attain the love of Godhead, which is the purpose of this life, right? We should know what's the goal of life. And knowing that goal of life, we should be endeavoring for that goal of life. In the previous chapter, we heard as one should not engage in any endeavor which can be easily obtained even from Brahmaloka to the lower planets in this material world. Taseva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate brahmatam uparyadha. So again, one should not engage in any endeavor which can be received, labhyate, from Brahmalok to the Patal-lok, any of these 14 planetary systems. Rather, one should engage in such an endeavor which can release us from this material life and brings us to that level of Krishna consciousness where we experience transcendental bliss, because that is our nature. Here, Lord Shri Krishna is warning us that a transcendentalist who does not control his mind, body and words, does not engage in devotional service, will have, just like from this clay pot which is not baked, the water seeps through the very pores of this unbaked clay pot. All the austerities, sacrifices and charity, all the benedictions, they will flow away just like water flows away from an unbaked. So we have to bake ourselves, we have to engage ourselves, we have to be, purify ourselves just like gold purifies in fire, gives up all impurities. Similarly, we have to engage in the chanting of the holy name, in the devotional service. And similarly, remembering this, we should be chanting more attentively, because that is the basis of Krishna consciousness, yet at the same time, means as well as the goal to attain Krishna consciousness, to attain love of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Now if you pay attention, all of Bhagavad Gita, all of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahamantra is the most, repeated mantra. Srila Prabhupada again and again came back to Mahamantra, because when, that is like a characteristic. A bee wants to wander around the flowers, so it goes in circles and comes back to the same point. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada is teaching us by his own example that again and again we have to come to the main point, which is praying to Lord Shri Krishna, praying to Mother Radha, Hara, that's her name. So with love we call her Hare. And Lord is also known as Radha Raman, so the Ram is also there. Yes, Balaam is also referring to Ram, and Ramchandra is also referring to Ram, because Vishnu Tattvas are non-different. So we have to look from that perspective, that we are praying to the Supreme Mother, the Divine Mother, and praying to the Supreme Father for their benediction, that please engage me in your service, because that is where our purification lies, that is where our existence lies, and that is where the very purpose of our life lies. So we should engage in devotional service. Otherwise, just like from an unbaked form, all austerities, sacrifices and charity, just like water, it will fly, it will just drain away. And we would not want to experience such a great loss. And this is in the case of transcendentalists. Now you will say, who is a transcendentalist? So in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are two kinds of intelligent men. The first kind of intelligence is an intelligent materialist. He knows how to manipulate this material energy and attain benefits by material energy, but for sense gratification. While the other intelligent person is who is a transcendentalist, who is a spiritualist, who is seeking God. Aham Brahmasmi, as I am a spirit soul, and what is the purpose of my life? And thus seeking, perfection in this very life. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam avyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdyate. So the transcendentalists who know the absolute truth recognize the absolute truth in three forms. What are the three forms? Brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti shabdyate. So they describe the absolute truth in the form of Brahman, Paramatma, the super soul. Brahman is the effulgence, and of course here in the purport is given like greatest of all things and cause of, the birth of everything. Paramatma is the super soul. He resides in everyone's heart. We also know him as Śrī Uddhava Vishnu, who lives in the, Kṣīr Sagar. Kṣīr Sagar is ocean of milk. And then Bhagwan, Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa himself. Now when people hear that Lord Kṛṣṇa is responsible for the, he's the cause of Vishnu, and that he is also the cause of creation, maintenance and annihilation, they get bewildered. They say, wait a minute, last time we checked, it was Brahma who creates, Vishnu who maintains, and Shiva who annihilates, destroys. So how is it that Lord Kṛṣṇa is doing that? So this is, when we are talking about Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh, we are talking of secondary creation of the material universe. There is another creation that happens before, which is the primary creation where Lord Kṛṣṇa expands in Purusha avatars. Hare Krishna. So here, Lord Kṛṣṇa, he is revealing to us that we should be very careful in our, engagement with our mind, body and senses. And then people are saying, how is it that his expansion of, Vishnu is an expansion of Lord Kṛṣṇa? Because when we were kids, we normally heard that Vishnu expanded. He said to Brahma that, yes, I will appear in Yadu dynasty. And so he appeared. Knowing that all the Vishnu Tattvas are non-different, Vasudev, who's an expansion of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, the Chaturvyuha expansion, he is the one who comes in the Yadu dynasty, as well as Lord Kṛṣṇa in Vrindavan, in Golok Vrindavan. So quickly we'll cover some of those expansions. From Lord Kṛṣṇa, the first expansion is Lord Balaam. From Lord Balaam, the Chaturvyuha expansion is Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. So when we talk about who is managing this material world as Vishnu Tattvas, it is Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. These are the personalities. These are the, again, Supreme Personality of Godhead. We don't use plural for that because they are non-different. So I can be here, you can be there, but Lord Kṛṣṇa is everywhere. So he expands. It's not that he has separated himself, but he has expanded, just like his potencies are expanding. Similarly, he expands in Swamsha form, and Swamshas are all Vishnu Tattvas. And so he can expand unlimitedly. Living entities can only expand up to 9. Yet at the same time, just like we heard in the case of Kadamba Muni, that he was able to expand into 9 when he was with his wife Devahuti. So similarly, we hear that Lord, He can expand unlimitedly and He can, have His opulence also expand unlimitedly. And when a transcendentalist does not engage in devotion service, then it is a great loss. However, when you are not a transcendentalist, you are new in Krishna consciousness, at that time also you have great benefit. Again, Neha bhikam nashasti pratyavayo na vidyate svalpam asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat trayate mahato bhayat. So even a little effort in Krishna consciousness gives great benedictions to the practitioner, because it can save one from great danger one may have to face in their life. So there is no diminution, there is no loss in taking to Krishna consciousness, no loss in engaging in devotional service. Rather, it purifies us, establishes us in a true state. Jivera Sarupoya Krishnera Nityadas. As living entity, we are all eternal servants of Lord Shri Krishna. Now some know it and some don't. The ones who know it are referred to as transcendentalists. Those who don't know it, engaging in material activities, are the materialists. And of them, the intelligent ones are the two kind of intelligent people. One is materialist, who are very intelligent, manipulating material energy, and the other one is transcendentalist, who is very expert that he is engaging in loving devotional service with intelligence to please Lord Shri Krishna. Why do you need to use intelligence in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna? That could be another question somebody could ask. Because we have to please Him as He desires. Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam. So we have to anukul, right? We have to favorably serve Lord Shri Krishna, not pratikul. And so this anukulena Krishna, and then anushilanam is also following in the footsteps of acharyas, right? So instructing spiritual masters and as well as initiating spiritual masters. So we have to follow their instructions, follow in the footsteps. Footsteps following means we have to take shelter of their instructions, follow their instructions, obey their instructions and their command, instead of just trying to imitate like them. So we have to be very, very careful, because it's a very treacherous path. There is Maya lurking at every step. Yet at the same time, a devotee constantly meditating on Lord Shri Krishna is taking shelter of the spiritual master. So just like in a very busy road, the cars are whooshing left and right, a small child would be very afraid. Yet at the same time, if the child is holding the hand of his father, at that time, he is able to easily cross with confidence this, traffic, because he has full faith on his father. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada says that when we take shelter of acharyas, when we take shelter of our spiritual master, we can be confident that we will be able to cross, get across this ocean of nations, this material ocean, and we'll be able to attain the love of Godhead. So it is still that freedom that we have received, that we have to use very intelligently. So we have been given minute freedom, because we are minute in nature. Same in quality, but different in quantity from Lord Shri Krishna. So we have to be very, very careful. Because there is this tendency, Lord Krishna is Purusha, right? Param Purusha. He is the supreme enjoyer. So because we are similar in quality, we have this minute, tendency to enjoy. And as enjoyer, we may misuse our intelligence. And that's why we have to actually be always on alert, that Maya is lurking around and can cause all our austerity, sacrifices and charity to go waste. And what's the greatest sacrifice? So in this particular chapter, it's amazingly that Lord Kṛṣṇa, he changes the definition of what's the greatest, again identifying what's the greatest sacrifice. He's talking about Brahma Jnana. And of course, the core of Brahma Jnana is chanting of the holy name, japa. So that's also from Opulence of the Absolute in Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 that we get. Now here, understanding this warning, we understand what we should be engaged in. So it is when we are willing to sacrifice for the pleasure of Krishna, He will take birth from our heart in most beautiful form as Shri Shyama Sundar. So again, we have to understand that Lord, when we are chanting His name, He is dancing on our tongue, He is purifying our heart, He is constantly blessing us with His presence. Kali Kale Naam Rupe Kṛṣṇa Avatare. So it is very important for us to engage our mind, body and words in His service. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sings a beautiful poem in this regard. Bhajahu re mana Shri Nanda Nandana Bhaya Charana Ravindare Durlabha Manava Janama Sasange Tarahu re Bhava Sindhure Shita Tapa Vatavarishana Yedina Yamini Jagire Bipala Sevinu Kripana Durjana Chapala Sukha Labha Lagire Idhana Yavana Putra Parijana Ite Kiyache Parati Tire Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Bhajahu Haripadani Tire Shamana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dasyare Pujana Sakhi Jana Atmanivedana Govinda Dasa Bhilashare. Sorry, this song is from Govind Das Kaviraj Krit. And what is the meaning? So let's read this meaning in Hindi and I'll also explain in English. In this song, Srila Govind Das ji, he is singing, हे मन तू केवल नंद नंदन के अभय प्रदानकारी चरणा विंद का भजन करो। इस दुर्लभ मनुष्य जन्म को पाकर संत जनों के संग द्वारा भवसागर तर करो। What is the meaning? Oh my dear mind, you only engage in chanting the glories, in bhaja, right? And constantly engaging in devotional service of Nanda Nandana, right? Nanda Baba ke Dular, Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, His glories. Engage in His, singing His glories in His devotional service. And this difficult birth, after many, many lifetimes we have received this human birth, Durlabh Janma, right? Of human life. So we have received this human life, and after having received this human life, we have to, in the association of devotees, we have to cross over this Bhavasagar, this ocean of nations, this material ocean. We can cross over with the help of association of devotees. So devotee association is paramount again. मैं दिन रात जाग कर सर्दी गर्मी आंधी तूफान वर्षा में पीड़ित होता रहा। क्षण भर के सुख हेतु मैंने व्यर्थ ही दृष्ट तथा कृपण लोगों की सेवा की. So unnecessarily I have spent my life in winter and in summer, in hot summer and in cold winter, in when it's windy outside, when it's, what do you say, tufan is stormy outside, as well as when it's torrential rains are going on. I had been constantly suffering. So again, this is like happiness and distress across various kind of distresses, right? The three kinds of miseries. Adidhavik, Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik. So Adhyatmik is because of natural disturbances. And Adi Bhautik is because of other living entities, the miseries that they come. And Adhyatmik is once created by one's own mind, which is the snowball effect. So we have to be very, very careful of the third one. So we are constantly being tormented by the three kinds of miseries in this birth. Yet at the same time, just to get a flickering, momentary happiness, I have been engaged in serving dusht, demoniac people, as well as kripana, which is miserly people, who are very miserly and do not want to really give the fair share to others. They want to control others, not just giving fair share with respect to material things, but also with respect to the behavior. And sometimes devotees come and they say, why doesn't this particular devotee, is so merciful? So the answer has also been given in the Shastras by the Acharyas, that one can only give what one has. They don't have enough devotion to be able to pass it on to others. So that's why they are miserly also. So we have to be very, very careful of such cases. Right? And then the third verse is, सारी संपत्ति यौवन पुत्र परिजनों में भी वास्तविक सुख का क्या भरोसा है? यह जीवन कमल के पत्ते के पर स्थित पानी की बूंद जैसा अस्थिर है। अतः तुझे सदा भगवान श्री हरि की सेवा व भजन करना चाहिए. So all this wealth, all this youth, all your relatives with your sons and daughters, and all your family members and associates, these are all fallen soldiers. So what is the true happiness that you are trying to seek in these fallen soldiers? This life is just like a drop of water rolling off on the surface of a lotus leaf. So lotus leaf has this wax setting, right? And the water, if it drops on the lotus leaf, quickly drives away. So such flickering is the stage of our human life. Life is very quickly passing. Every moment is quickly passing. So everything is so unstable. That's why we should always remember Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, right? And engage in His devotional service, in serving Him with love and devotion, with gratitude, with humility and tolerance, constantly seeking His pleasure. In the fourth verse, Sri Govindas, he describes the 9 process of devotional service. गोविंदास की यह चिर अभिलाषा है कि वह व्यक्ति की निम्नलिखित 9 विधियों में संलग्न हो. श्रवण कीर्तन स्मरण वंदन पाद सेवनम दास्य पूजन साख्य एवं आत्म निवेदन. So the 9 process of devotional service are being listed here. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atma Nivedam. Shravanam is hearing, Kirtanam is glorifying Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, Smaranam always remembering Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, Pada Sevanam serving His lotus feet, Archanam performing deity worship, Vandanam singing prayers to Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa in His glorification, Sakhyam, Dasyam is serving Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and Sakhyam is being friendly to Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa in His favor, always thinking, and Atma Nivedana, surrendering everything in service of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So beautiful prayers are there telling us that this life is very flickering, and in this chapter Lord Kṛṣṇa Himself gives this warning that even for a transcendentalist it is very important to not engage in frivolous activities, but also constantly use the loving devotional intelligence in serving Him. Otherwise, all the benedictions that we have received, all the benefit that we have received will be driven away. So now Uddhava, he's asking in this chapter that the Vedic Brahmanas in this particular life, it is very difficult to know you in this material and spiritual world, how you pervades. And yet at the same time, as Lord Kṛṣṇa is pervading, with His various opulences and is expanding, yet He never steps out of Vrindavan. We also, Acharyas explain that. So, how do the Brahmanas who have knowledge of who have the knowledge of Vedas, these are the, very knowledgeable Brahmanas, who are actually the knowers of Vedas, how do they worship you in truth? So he wants to understand this. Further, he wants to understand the perfection that the great sages achieve by worshipping with devotion Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So what are the perfections that they achieve? And also he wants to understand, and he says, my dear Lord, please explain to me your innumerable potencies, which you manifest on the earth, in heaven, in hell, and indeed in all directions. So again, he basically is saying from the material universe perspective, heaven is the higher planets, hell is the lower planets, and earthly planets are in the middle. Earth is in the middle. So the 14 planetary system in this material universe, you can look at it from that perspective. And also all the heaven, three lok, as we say, right? Heaven, earth, and hell. All the three kinds of words, how do you pervade? So now Lord Shri Krishna, he explains how he pervades. And he wants to hear that, my dear Lord, please tell me in detail of your divine opulence by which you pervade all these words. Now Lord Krishna, he says that even if, this is near the end of the chapter, so when we'll cover the opulences, we have to focus on it, but also understand that even if Lord Krishna is telling that even if I can count every atom in this world, I would not be able to, cover the opulences, the way my opulence. Why? Because his potencies are unlimited. And an example is given by the Acharyas in this regard, is when Ananta Shesh was asked by the Lordship to carry the material universe on his head, right? On his hoods, he has thousands of hoods. So he's carrying this material universe, and he said that it becomes like a weight of a sesame seed. Tomorrow is Ekadashi, another Ekadashi. On this Ekadashi, one precaution. Other Ekadashis, you can use sesame seed. But on this Ekadashi, don't even use sesame seed. Because even that is, not favorable. So here, Ananta Shesh, he says that when he's been instructed as an, order of the Lord, that please carry the material universes on your hoods, he's saying, but I'll get tired. When will I rest? So Lord very nicely says, okay. So when you start glorifying, opulences of Lord Shri Krishna, his potencies and so forth, and when you have glorified all the potencies, then you can keep it. So from time immemorial, from the beginning, he has been carrying these material universes. He hasn't had the time, because with his thousands of hoods, he is glorifying Lord Shri Krishna and his opulence and his various potencies, and he has not yet come to rest. Who are we? So Lord Krishna himself is saying that even he cannot cover his potencies and his opulence. Yet at the same time, he is only going to describe the main ones. So when he is saying that in the knowledge of the Absolute in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna starts describing after Arjuna has already glorified him. And how does Arjuna glorify him? Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. So he's calling him. So you are Param Brahma, Param Dhama, you're the supreme abode, you're the Param Brahma, you're beyond the Brahma, you're the cause of the Brahman. And so he's glorifying Lord Shri Krishna with such amazing, words of glorification. And after that, Lord Krishna, when he's asking this question, so Lord Krishna here is very happy with Uddhava. He says that you're asking me exactly the same question that Arjuna asked me at Kurukshetra. And so he's very pleased with Uddhava. Yet at the same time, Uddhava wants to go a little beyond where Arjuna was asking. He wants to know that not just how materialist looks at you, because Arjuna's focus was how do people in this world see you, right? Yet at the same time, Uddhava's purpose was going beyond how do great sages see you, how do transcendentalists see you, how does a devotee perceive you in all these three worlds. So he's asking with that perspective. Now it is also very important from this perspective that when we see anything, we should see it in relationship with Kṛṣna. That is the true way of perceiving things in the right consciousness. So we should be constantly introspecting as well as retrospecting. So retrospecting is looking at our past activities to improve ourselves, introspecting to understand what is happening all around us and how is it related with Lord Shri Krishna as his mercy in our life. And Lord Krishna at that time starts describing the various opulences. In Bhagavad Gita also, he had already covered in this chapter the Chaturshloki Gita, 10.8 to 10.11, 8, 9, 10, 11, those 4 verses. So please go ahead and read them. They are amazing. The purports are amazing. So here, Lord Krishna, he basically starts identifying that he is the ultimate goal of all those who seek progress, and that he is time among those who exert control. So if people are, seeking control over things, then Lord appears as time and controls them. And Srila Prabhupada used to give this example that when he was young, he could climb over this, he was also engaged at that Ajadi, the fight for freedom. And he was initially, for some time, follower of Mahatma Gandhi. So at that time, there was a big building where they wanted to hoist Indian flag, and take away Union Jack, the British flag. So Srila Prabhupada was able to climb that as a young body. But then, as he grew old, he actually raised his hand, he said, like flat tire, he pointed this way, just to show that time is, it exerts control. It basically takes away the material body. Yet at the same time, we have our spiritual existence. So we can spiritualize this body by engaging in devotional service. And those were the glories. That's why Srila Prabhupada is always, revered as a great general. And His Holiness Achyutanand Maharaj, he says when he was not initiated, he went for the first time at a matchless gift store where Srila Prabhupada was speaking and preaching to the young generation of this Western world. At that time, he saw Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada appeared like the general of the universe because of the gravity and the confidence he had in Kṛṣṇa and his spiritual master. So he was so surrendered that he could, invoke Kṛṣṇa consciousness even in the heart of people who were fallen, right, to such a state. Bauri was, the Queens was the Bauri of New York, very fallen state, but at the same time, Srila Prabhupada was able to invoke the love of Godhead in the heart of these young people in this Western world. So you can imagine the potency Lord holds, through his devotees. We also heard in the previous chapter, Lord says, I want to purify all the three worlds by the lotus feet of my devotees. So just by, empowering Srila Prabhupada, Lord glorifies Srila Prabhupada, while Srila Prabhupada, his very existence was in glorification of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa and his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. So now, for the equilibrium of the three modes of material nature, he is basically saying that he is the equilibrium. He maintains that equilibrium among the three modes of material nature. And he is the natural virtue among the pious. So even people who are not Krishna conscious, they want to follow good, behavior in this life. Even their natural virtue is coming from Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. Of the qualities, he is the primary manifestation of material nature. So again, the gunas, the three modes of material nature. He is the primary manifestation. And among the great things, he is the total material creation. If you think that, okay, what are the great things out there, then the material universe is floating, all these planets are floating. So that is, he's saying that I am among the great things, the total material manifestation. And not just this material universe, but unlimited material universes. And among subtle things, I am the spirit soul, he's saying. That it is actually the consciousness is that moves this material world all the way around, and the various activities are being engaged in. All this, because material energy is jad, it is inactive. But in the presence of living entity, a subtle being, that there are movements and there. So similarly, scientists have always been challenged because they don't understand that all these planets are not just floating on their own. There is a supreme power behind them. Makes us realize. And of things that are very difficult to conquer, he says, I am the mind. So mind is very difficult to conquer. Prahlad Maharaj told Hiranyakashipu, his father, that my dear father, even if someone who has, conquered all the universe but has failed to conquer his mind should immediately give up everything and go to the forest. Basically he was saying, please take to Krishna consciousness, engage in serving Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa favorably and not unfavorably as you are. And among the Vedas, he is the original teacher, Lord Brahma. And of all the mantras, he is the three-lettered Omkar. And three-letter Omkar is A-U-M, Om. And sometimes it's very interesting that I know of three personalities who actually copyrighted A-U-M. And so this has been in existence in the scriptures. So you cannot copyright something that has been in the scriptures for thousands and thousands of years. Among letters, he's saying, I am the first letter A. And among sacred mantras, I am the Gayatri mantra. So we are quickly covering the opulences of Lord Shri Krishna. Among the demigods, he is saying, I am Indra. And among the Vasus, Lord Krishna is the Agni, the god of fire. And he is Vishnu among the sons of Aditi. So this is Vaman Dev Upendra, the 12th son of Aditi and Kashyapa Muni. And among the Rudras, Lord Krishna is Lord Shiva. So he is identifying that he is the best in all the things. So in any category that we pick up, the best is him. So he is identifying that. Among the saintly Brahmanas, Lord Krishna is Bhrigu Muni. And among the Manus, he is Manu among the saintly kings. And he is Narad among the saintly demigods. And he is Kamdhenu among cows. Lord Krishna is saying, I am Lord Kapila among perfected beings. And Garuda among birds. Daksha among progenitors. Daksha means who is very expert. So his expertise was to increase the progeny. And we heard how 10,000 sons he had first. They were delivered by Devashinarad. Then more 10,000 sons. They were also delivered by Devashinarad. So this time he did not have sons. He had daughters who he gave to the sages, and then progeny increased. So, and then he's telling Uddhava that among the demonic sons of Diti, they are called Daityas, right? Sons, descendants of Diti. He's saying, know me to be Prahlad Maharaj, the devotee, saintly lord of the Asuras. And among the stars and herbs, I am their Lord Chandra, Soma, right? The presiding deity of moon. And among Yakshas and Rakshasas, Lord Krishna is saying, I am the Lord of wealth, Kuvera. Among elephants, he is Aravat, who appeared at the churning of the milk ocean. And among aquatics, he is Varun. So Varun Dev is the Lord of the ocean. And among all things like that heat and illuminate, I am sun. Prabhashmi Shashi Surya. It says in Bhagavad Gita that he is the light of sun and moon. So similarly here. And among human beings, he is king. I am king. And Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada used the word monarch. Right? Who is the, topmost human being. Among horses, he's saying he is Uchchashrava, who also appeared at the churning of the milk ocean, and Bali Maharaj took Uchchashrava. And he's saying he is gold among metals. Lord Krishna is Yamraj among those who suppress and punish. And among serpents, he is saying, I am Vasuki. And then he is telling that of all the best of snakes, right? Nagas. He is saying, I am Ananta Deva, Ananta Shesh, Nag. And among those animals with sharp horns and teeth, he is saying, I am lion, the king of the jungle. And among the spatial orders, he is saying, I am the fourth, the sannyas ashram, the renounced order of life. Because in renounced order, one engages fully in Krishna consciousness, mind, body and words. So in Vaishnava Sampradaya, we see that three Dandi sannyasis, they have three sticks in, as part of the sannyas, and they represent mind, body and words, engaging in, fully engaging in Krishna consciousness, in serving Lord Shri Krishna. And among the various occupational divisions, the Varnas, he's saying, I am the first one, the Brahmanas. And among sacred and flowing things, I am Ganges, Mother Ganga. And among steady bodies of water that don't flow, I am ocean. It's always stable and deep. And among weapons, I am the bow. Bow has two characteristics. You can use it to fight as a stick as well, and also hurt with the string. And on top of that, you use it to throw. Astra as well as Shastra, it has two characteristics. So that's why it's, and of the wielders of weapons, he's saying, I am Lord Shiva. Among residents, I am the Mount Sumeru. And Sumeru has many caves and provides residence to various kind of living entities. And of impervious places, I am the Himalayas, the one that cannot be moved easily. And among trees, I am the holy fig tree. And among plants, I am those that bear grains. Again, grains give, increased progeny. They give strength to us, to all the living entities who have this body. So among priests, he's saying, of all the priests, the topmost is Vashishta. So he's saying, I am Vashishta Muni. Lord Krishna is saying, among those who is situated in Vedic culture, he is Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, and he among the generals he is Kartikeya, the general of the demigods. And he continues describing his opulences, that among the advancing in superior ways of life. So who's advancing the superior ways? This is to do more with acceleration than with velocity. He's saying, I'm the great personality, Lord Brahma. He is quickly advancing by engaging in devotional service. Among sacrifices, I am Brahma Yajna, study of Vedas. That's what has been translated. Brahma Yajna is, again, to know about the Brahma. And Param Brahma, Param Grama, Pavitram Paramam Bhuvam. So when we look at from that perspective, in Bhagavad Gita in 10.25, 25th verse of the 10th chapter, Lord Kṛṣṇa says, Yajnanam Japa Yajna Asmi. Among the sacrifices I am chanting of the holy name Japa. And here it is said Brahma Yajna. So again, the essence of all Brahmas is to know that Lord Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to know Him. And so here we learn from those perspectives. And Lord Kṛṣṇa continues to identify the 8 progressive states of yoga, of his victory among the prudent political council, among the processes he is the science of the soul, and so forth. Among the ladies he is Shatrupa, among the men he is Manu, her husband Swayambhuva Manu, and among the sages he is Narayan. So he is referring to Narayan Rishi, and so forth. Yet at the same time, as we see about his various opulences, he says, just in Bhagavad Gita, that I pervade with the splendor of, spark of my splendor. So similarly, he tells Uddhava that, I cannot describe all my opulences. So simply understand that unlimited opulences are there, and he is only listing the predominant ones. So we should understand, Ishvaraha Paramaha Kṛṣṇaha Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. So Lord Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvara Paramaha Kṛṣṇa Sachidananda Vigraha. He has, he is full of knowledge, bliss, and eternal body. So he is eternal. There is no difference in his body and his soul. Anadir Adir Govinda. Anadir, there is no one who is older than him. And Adir, he is the oldest of all. Govinda, he gives pleasure to the sense and pleasure to the cows. Sarva Karana Karanam, and he is the cause of all causes. So if you see anything that is there in this material world, we should understand that he is the supreme cause of everything, and with this mood we should continue to engage in devotional service and chant his glories. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And Lord Kṛṣṇa here also identifies that Uddhava, you are among the devotees, you are the best. So we talked about Lord Shiva as the Vaishnavanam Yatha Shiva. Among the Vaishnavas, Lord Shiva is the topmost. Uddhava is topmost because he is already in the spiritual world. And similarly, when you look at it among his devotees in the Yadavas, so in Dwarka, in the spiritual world, Uddhava is considered the topmost. In Goloka Vrindavan, Radharani is considered the topmost. Her name, Radha, comes from Aradhita, the topmost worshipper of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. Srila Prabhupada explains. So that's why she is the topmost of all the gopis. Of all the 108, of all 16,108 gopis, the 108 gopis are prime. And among them, more prominent are the 8 gopis. And among the 8 gopis, the more prominent are the 2 gopis. And among the 2 gopis, Radharani is the topmost, most dear to Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So here in this chapter, we hear some amazing blessings that we can attain perfection in this very life by engaging in devotional service, by engaging our intelligence with pure devotional, being very alert. And also understand the warning that we should not spend this life frivolously. And be very, very careful at every step as how we engage in various activities. And to be able to take protection, there is a very simple formula Srila Prabhupada gave. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So, Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nanda Koti Vaishnav ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Please join us in singing Nasima Devati. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna.